Dad texted. On Christmas morning, my kids looked up at my mother and asked, "Where are our gifts?" She laughed sharply and said, "Santa doesn't bring presents to ungrateful children." Have you ever felt the temperature in a room drop 20 degrees? Not because a window was left open, but because a specific person walked through the door, sucking the warmth and oxygen out of the space with the sheer gravitational pull of their disapproval? That specific, suffocating chill is the sensory memory that defined every holiday of my childhood. A coldness that I foolishly thought I could insulate my own children from if I just played by the rules, if I just smiled enough, if I just pretended that the emotional landmines littering my parents' floor were actually decorations. I was wrong, of course, and the moment I realized just how wrong I was didn't happen in a courtroom or during a scream-filled argument, but on a silent, pristine Christmas morning, watching my 6-year-old son and 4-year-old daughter look up at their grandmother with eyes full of confusion and ask where their gifts were, only to hear a laugh that sounded like glass breaking in a disposal. To understand why my mother, a woman who meticulously curated an image of matriarchal benevolence for her church friends, would look at two innocent children and tell them that Santa doesn't visit ungrateful brats, you have to understand the currency of our family, which wasn't love or loyalty or even tradition, but compliance. I was the eldest son, the one who had tried to escape the orbit of her narcissism by moving 3 hours away and marrying a woman, Sarah, who refused to kiss the ring. And for that transgression, we had been placed on a probational status for years, a tenuous peace that existed only as long as we performed our roles as the grateful, scrapping subordinates to my parents' benevolent nobility. The setup for that disastrous Christmas began months earlier, in late October, when my father, a man who had long ago traded his spine for a quiet life, called me with a proposition that sounded more like a summons. We had been struggling that year. I had been laid off from my graphic design job in the summer and was freelancing to make ends meet, and Sarah was picking up extra shifts at the hospital, meaning our budget for the holidays was non-existent. My father knew this, of course, because my mother collected our misfortunes like trading cards to show off to her friends as proof of how much we needed her guidance. He told me that they wanted to host us for the full week of Christmas, that they knew we were having a tough time, and that they wanted to spoil the grandkids properly this year, implying that if we didn't come, the kids would suffer for our pride. It was a trap. I knew it in my gut, the kind of offer that comes with invisible strings thick enough to strangle you. But I looked at my son, Leo, who had been asking for a specific Lego set for 6 months, and my daughter, Mia, who was dreaming of a dollhouse we couldn't afford, and I swallowed my pride. I told him we would come. I told him we were grateful. I told him we would follow their schedule. I sold my soul for the promise of seeing my children smile, convincing myself that I could endure 5 days of passive-aggressive comments about my weight or my career if it meant my kids got the magic I couldn't provide. We arrived on the 23rd of December, driving up the long gravel driveway to the house I grew up in, a sprawling Victorian estate that always felt more like a museum than a home, the windows dark and imposing against the gray winter sky. The dread started the moment the car engine cut off, a physical tightening in my chest that made it hard to breathe, a regression to the scared little boy who used to hide in the pantry to avoid my mother's moods. Sarah squeezed my hand, a silent reminder that we were a team, that we were just visitors in this museum of dysfunction. But as we unloaded the bags, I could see the tension in her jaw too. My mother greeted us at the door, not with a hug, but with an inspection, her eyes raking over our clothes, our car, and even the kids' haircuts, looking for flaws she could file away for later use. She made a comment immediately about how tired Sarah looked, framing it as concern but delivering it with a smirk, implying that if Sarah managed her household better, she wouldn't be so exhausted. Full story on channel link below.